Hello, and welcome to Just Grasp. We're finishing up week 2 here, and we are starting on this Rose versus Solo here. I believe we only have about 3 or 4 matches left in week 2 before we move on to week 3, which week 3 will be when we start seeing eliminations. So we're going to start them off with the draft here. It looks like Solo picked the first character, and Rose picked the second character. Solo's picking another two. We have Cammy Polar Knight, and see, what does Solo have? 9, Bike, and Ragna. And then we see Rachel. Okay, both players had predetermined teams. This is pretty fine. They're going to go ahead and decide who goes first here. Maybe. They're both supposed to pick blind pick first. There we go. They put it in their hand. We're looking good here. Okay. Now then. Looks like we're going to see the 9 versus Polar Knight. 9 versus Polar Knight here is going to be a lot of can 9 stay away from Polar Knight? Because Polar Knight, once he gets into 9, is going to deal an insane amount of damage. Of course, 9 does have ways to go ahead and get away from Polar Knight. She has the her 7-speed special that I can't remember the name of that allows her to move a bunch and go ahead and get out of some of the range that Polar Knight might have at range, or stuff Polar Knight might have at range 1. And she does have these other options. I doubt we'll see something like Navy Pressure unless something went kind of wrong. Amethyst, of course, is good. A lot of these cards are good. Kunzite is another one where it's kind of like a mix-up because it is another sort of spike. It's going to be better at longer ranges versus Polar Knight, but it is possible that we see it played as a mix-up. Of course, we have all these other options as well. We have the Coral Catastrophe, which is the mid-speed that goes up to about 8 power at some point. We have the Morganite. Morganite in this matchup is going to be a little bit interesting because it'll pull Polar into us without giving us advantage, so that could be a problem in and of itself. So yeah. And then with Polar's going to want to stay at close range from 9. 9's probably going to be looking for more of a zonery line here, whereas Polar's going to be looking for their normal line. We'll just set up ice spikes, come in close, and just start wailing on you. Massive amounts of damage that can come out. And yeah, that's the thing we want to kind of avoid is 9. 9 having a 25 card deck to start, that's because she starts with half of her special sealed and ultras. She does have this nice little thing where she can just go ahead and pull cards out of her sealed area by putting cards back in her sealed area. It is a nice little tidbit that she can do. But yeah, we are underway here. And it looks like Polar Knight's going to end up going first. So Polar Knight going to be probably looking to close this gap pretty fast here. I can't imagine that we'll see them just kind of do anything else other than looking to close this gap. Make sure 9 doesn't get a lot of breathing room. You see the mulligans are done here, 3 for 3. All right. Players are probably saying their good luck, have funs in the voice chat, and then we'll get underway. There it is immediately, the run coming out from Polar Knight deck, as I was thinking. They don't even need to initiate a strike here if they don't want, they can just use the run. Dive, of course, being risky because it can get beaten out by stuff like Morganite. Now, 9 here initiating a strike. The interesting thing about this is 9 doesn't really have anything that breaks guard. Okay. Are we doing the thing? We did not do the 9 thing. Okay, we just boost defend as Polar. Now, the thing I want to state that's interesting about not doing the 9 thing here is that the 9 thing would allow us to go ahead and get that. Hi, download. Welcome to the stream. The thing about this not putting Grasp into our sealed area here is we're not getting Lapis out. Lapis, of course, getting better the more normals we have in here, so I guess we don't need it right away, but it is a nice card to have, especially because it takes us out of Polar Knight's range. Being at range 1, as we were talking about, of Polar Knight is not exactly the most favorable thing in the world. Right here, we are worried about any of these sweep likes, because we're at range, we're at range 1. There we go. There's the run out. We're going to go all 3 spaces. This makes a lot of sense here. And Polar are going to be looking for their way back in. We could see anything standard from an assault to anything kind of crazy here. So we'll have to see what Rose decides to play. They're just going to boost the +2 speed, though. Now, the +2 speed being on the table does make this kind of scary for 9. 9 doesn't have a lot of above curve options, per se. Alright, here it comes. Polar Plow, or this is, yeah, Polar Plow into the Emerald of Enmity. Polar Plow will hit here, regardless. So we're going to hit at range 3 for 2. We're going to push 1, then retreat 1. So this does generate space. We are still eating the 5 damage for this, and Polar Knight is still blocking 1 of this damage, so they're only taking 1 from this. Back Polar Knight goes. We will take 5 from this, and then Polar Knight will close 3. Now, that's the unfortunate part, is the Polar Plow does close 3 afterwards. So Polar Knight is back on our face in the corner again. We're not happy with this at all, as 9. We took an unfavorable trade. We got put back in the, we put ourselves back in the corner trying to create some space. We spent a card, an extra resource, and then we got hit for damage, and Polar Knight is in our face. Polar Knight, once they get to the, we haven't seen really any ice spikes come out because we are still filling up the arena with them. There we are. We have the 2 more ice spikes out now, and the arena is looking pretty juicy. This means 9 gets hit. We are +2 power, and that is no good. No good. Polar here thinking about what they want to do here. I mean, Polar has the ability and the life lead to just sit here and prep. Of course, they're just going to go ahead and do that. This makes a ton of sense here. Just sitting back, relaxing. You have nothing to worry about. You have the 7 life lead. Now, 9's got to kind of think about what they want to do here. So, 9 here is definitely not going to want to be here. This is not a location she wants to be. She wants to call the nearest Uber and just kind of leave. If she does have to stay here, trying to fight her way out of this is going to be a little bit hard. Because we did have that Emerald of Enmity played, but it's not going to work here. It's got 3 to 4 range only, so that's not working for us here. That Lapis Lazuli of Lamentation, we don't have enough normals in here. We actually don't have any normals in our thing yet. We have only had 2 strikes so far, so it's not too... with only 2 strikes there, of course, we don't really have a lot of economy going here. But we really do need to get that economy rolling, because otherwise we're just going to start to drown. And until those cogs get rolling, we're not doing great here. And please excuse me if I go ahead and take a break every now and again from this. I am eating my dinner while I'm casting, and I'm trying not to chew in your guys' faces, so that it may get a little bit quiet every now and again. Nothing much really happening still. Polar Knight's just prepping. They have all the time in the world. They don't need to rush into anything. They can just kind of build up whatever cards they want. I'm gonna start laying them flat. 9 here. I'm gonna kick off the strikes again. No boost for Polar Knight, so this is a pretty honest strike here. Polar Knight does have their own DP if they want. But, of course, the thing with every DP is whether this is slow or not. We're not going to play. We're just going to play the Shuttle Slam. Unfortunately, we are going to break the guard of Amethyst of Annihilation here. So this is the pretty unfortunate part. So Amethyst does get broken here, and we end up at this range 1 of Polar Knight, and it is Polar Knight's turn. That's probably the worst part. I'm almost certain we're probably going to see an Exceed here. I wouldn't be too surprised if we saw an Exceed here, to be honest. From the Polar Knight, just to go ahead and pump out the rest of that damage. They don't need to. They have a significant life lead. And, yeah. They're just explaining how the ice spikes work here. So, while they're explaining ice spikes, I'm going to go ahead and take another bite of my food. The +2 power now strike now. Oh god. Nine's got to guess right here, otherwise they're taking 1 trillion damage. This is +2, +2. This is +4 power, potentially. And then whatever this EX is. We could just see Nine's health bar retreat to make a tactical retreat. Alright. So this is the EX Grasp, 4 power, 6 power, 8 power. 8 power EX Grasp. Never heard of a grasp that breaks focus and sweep before, but here we are. We have created a focus or a grasp that beats both or that breaks both defensive options. That is pretty insane. This is the power of Polar Knight, boys and girls, and other pals. Oh. Alright. Nine here's got to take a second to think. Think about what they need to do. They burnt a cross already. Ideally, they want to get the other cross out here or something soon so they can move. I don't remember if they have any boosts to allow them to move. They have a hit effect, but that's not really what we want. There we are. We need the teleport step. Now, the unfortunate part here is cross is still not safe here because we do have the DP on the side of Polar Knight. And that DP on the side of Polar Knight is 7 speed, so it can just say no to cross, pretty much. That is a problem that we are going to run into here. And it is a pretty significant problem, too. Alright, Nine's just going to go for the raw strike here. Not sure what this is. Not sure what this could be. But as Polar Knight, we're sitting pretty, so even if we guess this wrong, it doesn't really matter to us. I just want to say I really respect this dive a lot. It is a risky play, but it did get you out of the corner. It did make the icicle drop miss. And now we are doing our refill as Polar Knight with the other icicle drop. Polar Knight is really just kind of keeping this this game close, tight and knit. They're just going to start building up boost again so they can make an unwinnable strike where they come out on top. Makes sense. It's pretty typical of what you do when you're ahead, especially in these older seasons. We're going to retreat on top of the ice spike here. So with no gauge, that means we are not worried about stuff like the icicle drop anymore, which is nice. We do still have to worry about things that are going to go ahead and move us, or move Polar Knight. So stuff like Shovel Drop will move Polar Knight. Polar Plow, of course, will do it. Polar Plow is not ideal here because we have 2 icicles in between. It looks like we're just going to move into 9. Okay. I can respect this. We're range 2 and 9. We have 9 in the corner. We're pretty safe about whatever we want to do here. EX Assault will work into the Flame Punisher, unfortunately. So this is a 5, 6, 7 damage EX Assault. Yeah, the Flame Punisher mix-up at close range is pretty hard to get a thing on. That is basically if your opponent is going to play a slow. But even normally, you normally don't want to play that unless you're at the 5 range, because even if the opponent closes in on you when you're at 5 range, you know, it's still hard to dodge. This is normally a card that's played at max range. You can play it at closer range, but you just have to expect you're going to be hit by it for playing it. So, I mean, this card's fine with being hit, but it really doesn't want to be, because 9 doesn't want to be hit in the first place. We're going to see the +2 speed boosted from Polar Knight here. We are up quite a substantial life lead, up 23 health. We're just going to go ahead and prep. We're looking for cards to kind of close out this match. Probably just looking for a spike, just because spike kind of ends this at this point. We don't really have to worry about anything. Main thing that we have to worry about if we do play the spike is we do have to worry about the other... Oh, wait, that's right, they're sealed. Never mind. We don't really have a lot to worry about here if we play the spike. The only thing we have to worry about is 9 crossing out. But I believe this is the other cross that is in the discard, so both crosses are down. 5-speed spike doesn't really get beaten by a whole lot, maybe like EX Assault. I mean, that's the main thing that we're looking for probably as Polar Knight here is just something that just kind of ends the game nice and clean. We don't need any fancy tricks. We're sitting at they're sitting at 5 life. 5 spike reads 5 damage, you know. +2 speed. We're hanging out. They play the other block and we don't have spike, we're winning next turn, so it's just kind of whatever. We're gonna go for the reading here. This is a desperate reading, and I definitely get this. We are at a point where we got the Kunzite. We did it. Respectable. This is 100% respectable here. We got the desperation read. We got it correct. We got the Kunzite off. You know, that's a little bit of a morale booster, and hopefully the next match just kind of goes better is what we're thinking to ourselves. This does get rid of the +2 speed boost. Both sweeps being down for Polar Knight means that we're pretty much playing raw dog strikes unless we're going to keep boosting for if we want. It looks like we might just end up prepping. I mean, 9 only has 2 cards left. We're taking a second to kind of think here. What 9 has left, see if we can just make a strike that just kind of closes us out. Both crosses are down for 9, notably. We did reshuffle. Interesting. You know, sure. Sure. Well, we'll just go with it. I mean, Polar Knight can kind of play the game however they want right now, so it's just kind of, it is what it is. We're seeing the players prep back and forth. Nothing crazy. Staring each other down at range 3. We're going to burn 2 force to move to range 1. And we will drop the strike here. If this is not an offensive block, this is almost certainly going to be, or look to be, a last strike of the game. So we'll have to see what was dropped here. It is possible that we just get the strike right and we just stun whatever is played, but Polar Knight's pretty hard to stun, so. Yep, there's the Grasp. Grasp will not do it. And that is GG's. Alrighty. Well, Rose is going to pick their next character first. Polar Knight is out, and then 9 is still playable. So we'll have to see what Rose goes ahead and picks between the Rachel Alucard and the Cammy. And then Solo will have to decide if they want to continue with the 9 the Phantom, or if they want to switch off to one of their other characters, which is Biken and Ragna. It looks like we might just end up sticking with the 9. Might want to try and get more practice into some. That is perfectly fine. I respect that. Oh, well, this is rude. All right. So here's how this is gonna work. Cammy has a lot of advance. So pretty much 9 is going to be forced to play at kind of a closer range, but they don't want to. Cammy, of course, her passive ability allows her to hit people if she moves through them. So this makes dive hittable anywhere. This makes a lot of her moves just work, because a lot of her moves just kind of read advance. You know, if you played the Street Fighter games, you know Cammy's just kind of flying across the stage the entire time, advancing all over the place. So that's the thing. Part of the reason why this is rude is because if 9... Oh, we're switching to Biken. I like this. I like this more. Alright, so here's the dealio with this, is Biken is going to be able to kind of toss Cammy where they want. They do have the pull, and Cammy is more than likely going to look for positioning that allows them to get these hits off pretty cleanly. They don't have a lot of like super fast things. They kind of just have mid speeds. They have a DP, and then their ultras. They do have one that says attacks at range 4 and 5 do not hit, and then one that says attacks at range 1 do not hit. Now the nice thing is, so playing stuff like gun is going to be a little bit risky from time to depending on what Cammy still has, because gun can just kind of get countered by one of these range dodge cards. Cammy not really have the only thing she really has for dodging range 1 is the CQC, and CQC is pretty much your attack misses. I spend 3 gauge. I hit you for 6. I gotta hit you for 6 for free. It's like sweep, but if sweep didn't have, if sweep cost 3 gauge and didn't get hit. So instead of trading, it just hit you. Flat 6 to the face, 1/5 of your health. The obvious answer to stuff like CQC is, like cross if you think it's gonna happen. Okay, here comes the Kabari. If I'm playing the Kabari here, we have to think about, do we want advantage or do we want the extra 2 damage? It looks like we're going to take the extra 2 damage. Ooh, that hurts. Our badass boost is gone. That's pretty unfortunate. Cammy does have about twice our hand size, but as Biken, we do have that little bit of a bonus that we get for being at below 4 cards. So being at that 3 or fewer cards, we do get the power up on Yozansen. We get the power up on Karatakawari. We get the power up on Hiragi. So all these cards are getting their power ups now, which is nice. But unfortunately, we are a little bit low on options, because that's kind of what happens when you play low hand Biken. Is Biken has a lot of ways to make her hand low. So normally, what you'll want to do is you'll want to go ahead and get her a decent hand, and then just start crafting your hand with all these cancelable boosts and stuff, and then make a strike. You know, because you still want the power ups. You just don't want to have to worry about, you know, the RNG of the cards. Sometimes it just works out in your favor playing 3-card Biken, but not always. So we have acrobatics here, where attacks at range 1 do not hit. Looks like we're canceling range, going to range 2. Notably, Biken has cards that hit at range 2, so this isn't really too much of an issue for Biken. Striking at this range, I think this is a really good play by Biken, actually, to go ahead and do something like this at this range. So I think this is really respectable. I like this a lot. You see that you're denying Cammy the free gauge, and we are getting something out here. Now, Cammy, of course, her dodges are range 4, 5, and 1. So we're just going to wild swing here. We get to sweep into Yozansen. That is the most unfortunate thing that we could have gotten into this Yozansen here. Because otherwise, this was insanely good by Viking. But because the sweep came out, it's a little bit unfortunate. There goes the Hiragi. Yeah, we're not too happy that the other sweep just happened to get drawn like that. That is a really good wild swing coming out, and that is really unfortunate for us. Now we're moving on to Cammy's turn. Cammy having 6 cards in hand, complete hand advantage. We're going to want to see how Cammy kind of does this, because Biken is only wild swinging right now. Of course, the bolt deck still being pretty full, so we will have to kind of pivot around this fact. Just because, you know, we could just have the same thing happen to us in Wild Strikes. Critical. Critical Spiral Arrow into Karachikwari. Karachikwari going to lose out here. We'll take 5 for their troubles. Alright, on to Biken's turn. If I'm Biken here, I'm probably just prepping. I don't think there's a whole lot else to do other than prep. Even CCing too is not great because you're playing Season 7. Season 7, you want to be getting these cancels going. We're going to see another strike come out here from Cammy. We'll have to see if Biken drew a good answer, if we're just going to see another wild swing here. Range 3 options for Biken, of course. We do have to worry about stuff like Spike and Dive, because if we decide to drop the Hiragi and then it gets spiked or dived, we're really sad. One Hiragi already being gone is pretty depressing for us already. We don't want to see the other one go down. The one thing that's going to be a little bit thing here is we have stuff like Dive Kick, right? Dive Kick is going to be an assault, but instead attacks at range 1 don't hit. So it's going to be a mid-speed that kind of just wins out. And that's pretty unfortunate. It is a nice card. At this range 3, it is on curve. So we'll have to be a little bit careful about that because it's insanely safe when it comes to stuff like when it comes to these defensive options. You know, it is basically kind of like another dive. Now, the thing is that Biken doesn't really have a way to counter this, unfortunately. Yuzansen isn't far enough away. Doesn't have 3 range. And the other 3 range options just aren't going to work here. The thing that would work here is Gun. Yep, I called it correctly. Dive Kick comes out. Advance 2, deals 4 damage, and the slash will lose out. Makes sense, because the only thing that really wins here for Biken into that, if you think it is that, is Kenju, and you have to call it out pretty hard for Ken to play Kenju. Especially because Kenju is a gauge card. And, you know, you're spending your resources on this, and if you play it into the wrong thing, if you're just getting, like, baited, you know, it's not great. Playing Kenju there actually wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world, in all honesty. Because it did actually catch a lot of things, including... Actually, yeah. No, not including Cross. Cross is like the one thing it probably didn't catch. The Cross wouldn't have hit anyway, so we're fine with this because it gives more time to prep. Pairing. Might just be pairing for hand information. Karachikwari, Focus, Tatami, and Surane. 1-1. Yep, Karachikwari and Surane. Yep, Cammy does have a 5-speed dive and a 4-speed normal dive. That was the unfortunate part about Dive Kick there, is Dive Kick... The only thing it's losing to is Kenju, and Kenji has to call it out. I think Kenji would have been a good option there, but I don't think that soullowe had it. Because the gun does kind of beat a good amount of Cammy's options that aren't guarded. So, of course, the guarded option being the Spiral Arrow. If another Spiral Arrow was played, we would have been sad, but otherwise it would have been a fine play. But it does cost 2 gauge, so that is another thing to consider. But 6 speed, 3 damage is a nice counterattack. I know it says advantage on it, but you can't get baited by advantage when it comes to playing on offense. Playing on offense is pretty scary, especially when your opponent's deciding to out delta you. All right, what do we got here? EX strike from our Baiken player. Kawari's gone. Yozanson's gone. Kabari's gone. Crossing out of the EX focus. EX focus will take 0 damage from the cross out. That is just kind of like an unfortunate. That's just kind of like, you think to yourself, you're like, okay, what beats everything here that's EX? It's gonna be the EX cross, because the only thing that beats the EX cross, or I mean the cross, is the EX grasp or the EX other cross. Oh, we're gonna see Razor's Edge Slicer into the Tatami Gaish. So this will push 1, draw 1, but it doesn't because it did not hit. This will close 2. Razor's Edge will go over it, and the opponent is not at the edge of the arena, so this will only be 3 damage. Yep. 1 less. Perfect. Alright. Now we're at this nice range, or we're at this range 3. Baiken does have a decent amount of options that hit it, or a few options that hit at range 3, not a whole lot. We do have the Kabari as our fastest option. We have things like that. Here comes the, let's see, slide. Ooh. That makes for a really kind of goofy focus. It also makes for a really accurate spike. Interesting. At range 3, this isn't the most accurate spike in the world, but it could be if we really wanted it to be. We would have to we would have to like move up before we actually played up something. But this does mean that both dive kicks are down. I'm surprised this wasn't just played as an attack, to be honest. And speaking of, there's the Kenji that I was talking about earlier. Add a card from our hand to gauge, get +2 armor, call it a day. Alright. Yeah, 6 cards versus 4. And see what Baiken decides to do here. We're gonna parry. I wonder if we're pairing an actual card or if we're just pairing for hand knowledge. There's an EX grasp in there. I gotta see what Rose was planning now. Being out both focuses, being out a sweep, being out now a block. Yeah, I definitely understand the EX grasp now. And we're also down a Tatami, and we are down a Hiragi. Teching the 2 armor, just to get off the table, just so we can kind of secure a win here. We're teching the advanced 3. That EX grasp advanced 3 no longer works right now. The main thing to note here is there is no reading on Season 7. So we don't really have to worry about that too much, or that too much as Cammy. +2 speed. Cannonball just kind of getting boosted here. It is another copy of Light, but it is a temporary copy of Light. We don't really need the gauge as Cammy. We're just kind of getting it just because we can. Welcome to the stream, Pingu. Pingo. Yeah, this is match 2. This is Baiken versus Cammy. Rose does enjoy her Cammy. And oh, hi, Carrie. And you already know what I'm talking about, the Rosenjoyster Cammy. First match was Polar Knight versus 9. Polar Knight took it pretty handily, and now we're seeing Cammy versus Viking. This is the other Cannonball? Yep. And the other Cannonball will... What has happened? Oh, Viking struck, I see. I now understand what just happened. EX Rane on offense. The unfortunate part with EX Rane on offense is it'll deal damage, but it's not going to out-dealt to the Focus. Focus is going to be happy with this trade. Opponent just spent 3 gauge, spent both of the DP supers. Yep, and here comes the ending swing. EX Grasp into the Yozansen. Yozansen will get beaten out. EX Grasp will win. All right. Well, that's about wraps up that. Alrighty. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. I don't really think there's much to talk about here in aftermatch analysis. This was just kind of a game of Xseed. So, yeah. So thanks for showing up, guys, and we'll see you for the next one. I think the next one is at 4 a.m. and on Friday, I believe. Yeah, so in a couple days here at 4 a.m. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good one, guys.